Season's greetings, folks. Sorry, I couldn't find my Santa hat this year, but today I want to share with you some of my fond memories with Nintendo's handhelds, or more specifically, their Game Boy. Now, it was 23 years ago, on Christmas Eve of 1994. My family had that tradition where you could open one present on Christmas Eve, so my mom picked out a present for myself, my brother, and my sister. It said, here, we opened these ones. Turns out it was a Game Boy for each of us. Still have mine. A little banged up, but it still works. We also each had one game. Aaron, I'm going to be using their names because I'll mention them quite a bit in this video. My brother Aaron, he got Donkey Kong, the arcade version. Noelle, my sister, got Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was actually better than the NES version. And I got Battletoads. Now, despite the cover, this is actually not a port of the NES game. And it's actually really good. The music in this is awesome. Of course, Battletoads games always had awesome music, but whatever. Now, I remember my mom had this, well, actually, she still has it, this old sewing machine table where it's not really that big. It's only probably like that big or something like that. It's like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 feet wide or something like that. But anyway, she would put a lamp on it most of the time to use it as a end table. So, the three of us, we crowded all around that with our Game Boys because, you need a light to play them and, playing our new games. So we were, like, sharing things with each other, like, oh, I just got an axe. And Noelle's like, oh my god, they just shot Marvin Acme. And the movie was they dropped a safe on him, but whatever. That was fun. The next morning, we each got 2 more games. Aaron got Super Mario Land 2 and this Monster Truck game. Noelle got Tailspin and Tetris. And I got Mega Man 2 and Alien 3. Now, we also each got a carrying case, which I still have mine right here. You can see that. Noelle's was purple, Aaron's was black, and I can't remember if it was the carrying case or the Game Boy itself. It came with stickers. So, I think Aaron did the same thing. I put the little square stickers that you can actually kind of see. I put a couple of them on my Game Boy. And I also put one on each of my game cases, as you can see right there. There's Mario on the Mega Man 2 cart. I remember sometime later, I think it was somewhere that year, and in that, Aaron got, whatchamacallit, he got Mortal Kombat 2, I believe. Yeah, this was all after Christmas. He got Mortal Kombat 2 and, I think, a Power Rangers game. And then he got Killer Instinct, being his 6th game. I think we were at, there used to be a Caldor across the street from my mom's house. I think that's where we were, if you remember Caldor. And my brother and I were looking to get a new Game Boy game. He found Killer Instinct because he was obsessed with that game. He had the SNES version. He knew, like, literally everybody's combos. And so I think I had something else in my hands, like, that I was going to get. I forget what it was. But he was like, no, Mark, get Game Boy so we can go do cable link, or link battles, because he had the cable, the link cable. So I was like, oh, alright. So I got it too, that being my 4th game. And, what was it? It was actually a decent little port, that Killer Instinct game. I played that so much. In fact, one of my favorite characters in Killer Instinct was always Jago. And when I was a kid, I only knew a few of his moves, one of which was the wind kick, which you perform by doing a half circle on the D-pad. So I was up late one night playing my Game Boy and playing Killer Instinct, and I kept doing the half circle to try and do the wind kick, and then I had this huge blister on my thumb. Yeah, it was worth it. And it might have been Christmas of that year, I'm not sure, but I remember I ended up getting Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle 2, which it was fun at the time, And the funny thing about that game is that the passwords in that game are all 4-letter words. I still have them all. I still have the paper with all the passwords on it. On the back is all the passwords for the Game Boy on Mega Man 2. Over the years, I would get a few more games from my Game Boy here and there, like Bomberman, Turok, which is actually a side-scrolling platformer, but it's not bad. The music's awesome in that game. And of course, there was Pokemon. Now, Pokemon, I actually made a whole video about my history with Pokemon, or my memories with that, so I don't need to go too deep into details, but Blue was the first one I bought. Not really sure why, but, and I think it was Christmas of that year or the following, I got the red one, and I think the following Christmas, I got the yellow one, along with the strategy guide, and I also got Game & Watch Gallery, which, God, I used to play the shit out of that game. Now, a funny little thing. We're going to move on to Game Boy Color in a moment, but I kind of mentioned this in my Pokemon Memories video, but it's a funny story, so for those who haven't heard it. My neighbor Robert, we used to, I would use my Game Boy, he would use my original Game Boy, and I'd use my Game Boy Color. I would play the blue Pokemon, he'd play red, and we would start a new guy and see how far we could get without saving, and just like, probably 2 or 3 hours, and although it does seem pointless, it was actually a lot of fun to do. We had a lot of great memories doing. That's why I made a whole video on it. But the reason I'm bringing that up again is because my old Game Boy, it still works, but it's very sensitive. Like, so if you like jerked it around like that or something, it would reset the game. You know, it would go back to the Nintendo logo thing. So he managed to catch a Pikachu before me when we were playing these. The Game Boy games, and Pokemon in blue and red. He caught a Pikachu before me, and I think he made it to about Cerulean City, maybe? And he he just went through a trainer battle, and his Pikachu got like a shitload of experience. He was all excited that he like jerked around and the game reset. So this was literally him. Yes, Pikachu gained! Oh my god, it was hilarious. I think, I want to say my birthday, it was, because I know the Game Boy Color came out in 1998, so I don't know if it was because my birthday's in March, so I don't know if it was the birthday of that year. It must have been the following year, I think. But I did, my mom was like, you should get the Game Boy Color, you know, so I was like, oh, alright. Well, I still have it. Still works, too. It just doesn't have the back, but it does still work. Well, obviously it's not working right now, because there's a game in there, but, there's no game in there, but, now, because this is backwards compatible, you know, with all the old games, but I also got games that were, for Game Boy Color. The first one of the games I got was Rampage World Tour, which, I remember the arcade port of the original Rampage arcade game. I remember the NES port, and I loved Rampage World Tour in the arcade, and then of course, like, the ports on N64 and PS1. So I was like, oh, sweet, I got this Rampage game. It's not that great a port, unfortunately. I also got, I think it was that year for Christmas, I got Frogger, which is a classic. And it's funny that, because these, like I said, these, you know, Nintendo was always good with backwards compatibility on their handheld, so because of some of these earlier Game Boy Color titles, you know, technically, damn it, I'm sure it's fine. Since they would work on the original Game Boy, would that be called forwards compatibility? Sorry. Anyway, another game that I got for the Game Boy Color, God, I dumped so many hours into this, is Pokemon Pinball. And the reason it's kind of bulky is because it has a built-in rumble pack. I played the shit out of this game, and I unlocked, I think it was because the points are very easy. It's very easy to score in this game. You get points for like the littlest things, but one time I was playing it, I was just on fire. Like, and I think I still have all my high scores. I have like over 1 billion points as my high score, or maybe 1 trillion even. I need to take like a screenshot of it or something, just in case or a picture with my phone, just in case the internal battery of this ever dies and my scores all get erased, because that would suck. Then Game Boy Color games eventually started appearing like this. So I got Donkey Kong Country for Christmas one year. You know, nice little port. And also Dragon Warrior 3, I think I bought myself. God, another game that I dumped a shitload of time into. And then, of course, I eventually got Pokemon Gold and Silver, which has to be my favorite in the entry in the series. Now, if you're wondering about my Aaron and Noelle, well, Noelle's Game Boy, unfortunately, the battery melted in the compartment. This isn't her, this is mine, but I'm just saying. The battery's like corroded into the back storage pot thing, and sometimes when you clean something up like that, it still doesn't work, or not as great. Like, it happened to one of my Wiimotes, so she later got a Game Boy Pocket, which I think she still has it, and Aaron, years later, he got a Game Boy Advance SP, and he also got a DS, but I think that was about it. He got games for those systems too, but I don't think he ever... Those were like the only handheld systems he had. Anyway, and in 2001, the Game Boy Advance was launched. I believe it was August, but I got mine for Christmas that year. So, because it was on my Christmas list. I think this was the only system I got within the time period of its launch. Like, so I got it for Christmas that year, and let me see. Along with 3 games, it was Super Mario Advance, which is really just Super Mario 2, but with the original Mario Brothers arcade game. I also got Wario Land 4, which is a great game, and Mario Kart Super Circuit, which is probably one of my favorite Mario Kart games of all time. And funny, one of the games I always wanted to buy prior to owning the Game Boy Advance, I was like, I remember being in Walmart and looking at like all the games, like, okay, I'll probably get that one and that one. One of the games I saw was this one, Lady C. I never did buy it years ago, but I did buy it like recently, like maybe last year, a couple of years ago. Anyway, I didn't buy it when the Game Boy Advance was relevant, but I did buy it a couple of years ago, and it's not a bad game really. But that's another story. A game I rented a couple of times was Bomberman Tournament, which happens to be my favorite Bomberman game of all time. I did eventually buy it. And it was during this time I was really getting into Kirby, but that's a whole other story. So, I remember that year, I think it was 2002, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland was released for the fall, so I got that for Christmas that year. And I remember there was times... My brother and I used to go to Circuit City, because my brother wasn't huge into handheld gaming. It was funny, like, he would get a game for PS1 or something, and I would get a game for Game Boy or Gameboy Color or whatever. But we used to go to Circuit City, and it's like he'd buy a game for the PS2, and I would buy a game for Game Boy Advance. One of those games was Final Fight 1, which is a great port of the original Final Fight game, the first one. There's a lot of, like, you could change the colors of the characters, like, their outfits, and they also have, like, there's a different variation of Guy and Cody. But this is a great port right here. Another game, there was this place that him and I used to go to. I forget what it was called, but it was, I guess you could say it was kind of like Circuit City, or Best Buy, but it was much, much smaller. So we used to go there to get games a lot, and one year I got Lufia, because I was never too familiar with the Lufia games. Like, I never played any of the Super Nintendo games. This was the first time I had heard of it, and this was actually a really good game. Another one I used to play a lot. And over the years, I got a lot of other Game Boy Advance games. I don't have them all with me, because I'm not going to go through the whole collection, because otherwise we'd be here all day, but, I remember the high school I went to, it was actually a special needs high school, because I have Asperger's, but, they were awesome, that school. They would allow you could bring your, they allowed you to bring your, like, gaming system, so sometimes I'd bring this with me to play, during lunch or whatever, and so there's a lot of games. It's funny, coming down to the end here, I remember... It was in the fall of 2006. I graduated in 2006. In the fall of that year, was when the Pokemon Rescue Teams came out. So it was like the commercial, and they said Blue Rescue Team and stuff, and then they said also available is Red Rescue Team for the Game Boy Advance. And I was like, oh, sweet, because I didn't have a DS yet, but I was like, I'll get the Red Rescue Team, which I did. This was actually the last game to be released for the Game Boy Advance, at least or at least the last Nintendo published Nintendo property game, so to speak, not third party or anything. And then in the spring of that year, I would later get the DS, so that was when we decided to drift away from the Game Boy, where, the systems were no longer called Game Boy, but that's pretty cool. So, yep, that's all my memories, or some of my greatest memories of the Game Boy. So, make sure to rate, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a Merry Christmas, everybody.